The year was 3247, and the Galactic Empire stretched across 10,000 worlds. From the glowing cities of the core systems to the cold dust of the outer rim, every planet served under the iron banner of the Empire. Yet in the deep archives, there was one name that no one spoke anymore: Earth, the old human homeworld marked as extinct, destroyed in the ancient wars, forgotten by all. Commander Relis of the Imperial Scout Division sat alone in the control deck of his ship, the Argus. He was a man of routine, following patrol routes through the cold void near the Sol system. For centuries, this sector was quiet, dead, a place no one bothered to visit. But tonight, the scanners began to hum. A strange pulse rippled through the ship's sensors. A wave of energy. Sharp and rhythmic, Relis frowned and leaned closer to the screen. "Report. What is that reading?" he ordered. His crew looked confused. "Unknown, sir. It's coming from the dark side of the third planet, Earth." For a long moment, the bridge fell silent. No one used that name anymore. Relis remembered the stories. Humans were primitive savages who destroyed themselves in nuclear wars. No one believed there was anything left there. But the signal kept repeating, strong and clear, a coded frequency older than any known design. "Could it be a distress call?" one officer asked. Relis shook his head slowly. "No, this isn't a cry for help. This is a warning." They sent a small probe to orbit Earth's moon. The feed came through in static, then cleared, showing the gray surface of the moon. Silent, lifeless. But as the probe circled around the far side, the image changed. A massive structure came into view. Dark metal buried under layers of lunar dust. It was kilometers wide, shaped like a blade buried in stone. Energy readings spiked off the scale. "Is that the ship?" whispered the navigator. Relis could feel his heartbeat rising. He magnified the image. The metal wasn't corroded. It was clean, alive, pulsing with faint blue veins of light. The comm officer gasped. "Sir, it's charging something." "Impossible," Relis said, but before he could finish, the probe's camera went white. A blinding flash swallowed the image, and the signal was gone. The control deck went silent again. No explosion, no debris. The probe simply vanished. Then, deep within the static, a voice whispered through the communication channel. Soft, almost human. "You are not welcome here." The crew froze. Eyes wide, Relis clenched his jaw. "Trace that signal." "It's bouncing across multiple satellites, sir. It's not coming from the moon. It's coming from the other side of Earth." The commander stood, his eyes fixed on the blue and green sphere on the main screen. "So the humans are not extinct," he murmured. "But how could they survive?" his lieutenant asked. Relis shook his head. "If they built that thing, then they didn't just survive. They evolved." Moments later, a faint vibration ran through the ship. The stars outside flickered as if space itself trembled. Sensors screamed as another pulse burst from Earth's shadow. This time, it wasn't just energy. It was power. The ship's lights dimmed, and every Imperial console rebooted. The human signal spread through their systems like a living virus. Rewriting, erasing, then vanishing. Relis stared at his blank screens. "They just scanned us," he whispered. "They know who we are." The communication officer turned pale. "Sir, we're receiving a message from Central Command. They've detected the pulse across 4 sectors. Relis nodded slowly. "Then the Empire will come. They'll send a fleet." He looked again at the empty darkness beyond the moon. Something inside that shadow moved. A faint shimmer. A reflection that wasn't supposed to exist. He could see it now. A massive silhouette behind the moon. Bigger than any Imperial warship. It wasn't orbiting. It was resting, hiding, waiting. The words escaped his mouth before he could stop them. "It's not a relic. It's a warship." The crew didn't move. Every man and woman on the deck stared at the screens, unable to breathe. Then the stars shifted again as if something enormous turned its gaze toward them. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had found something it couldn't explain. Something older, darker, and infinitely smarter than them. Rayla slowly sat back in his chair, whispering to himself, "If the humans built that, then the galaxy is in danger." The last transmission sent from the Argus before it disappeared into the void carried only 3 words: "It has awakened." The Galactic Empire did not ignore threats. Within hours of receiving the strange report from Commander Raylus's missing ship, Imperial High Command gathered inside the Great Crystal War Chamber on Sereth Prime. Admirals, ministers, and council members sat beneath the glowing banners of 10,000 conquered worlds. At the center of the table, the Emperor's hologram flickered into being, cold and silent. "Explain this anomaly," he demanded. One admiral bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, the scout ship Argus vanished while investigating the Sol system. Their last message claims a large object is hidden behind the moon." The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. "And you believe this is human activity?" "Unknown, sire," the Admiral replied. "But the energy readings, they surpass Imperial technology." The Emperor's lips curled into a faint smile. "Then let us remind the dead what happens when they disturb the living," he said. Moments later, orders spread across the fleet network. Assemble the Second Imperial Armada, 200 warships, 10 dreadnoughts, and the Emperor's personal flagship Dominion. Their target, a forgotten blue planet once called Earth. As the fleet jumped through hyperspace, news spread like fire across the Empire. Some laughed. The humans were ghosts, nothing but myths. Others whispered in fear, recalling ancient stories of a race that once burned entire planets to survive. But no one truly believed until they saw the sky above Earth. When the fleet arrived, the Sol system looked quiet. No defenses, no satellites, only drifting debris from centuries of silence. The Imperial ships formed a wide circle around Earth, scanning the planet from orbit. "Primitive world," one officer scoffed. "No signals, no heat signatures, only ocean and stone." Admiral Kyle, commander of the Armada, stood at the front of the bridge. His face was calm, but his instincts were restless. "Keep scanning the far side of the moon," he said quietly. "That's where the signal came from." Suddenly, one of the sensor ships screamed over comms. "Sir, gravitational anomaly detected near lunar surface. Something's moving down there." Kale frowned. "Put it on screen." The display filled with static. Then a shape emerged, a vast shadow rising through the moon's dust. At first it looked like a mountain shifting under light. Then it began to separate from the lunar crust, breaking away in slow motion. Pieces of rock tumbled off its surface, revealing black armor plates glowing with blue veins of energy. Every sensor aboard the fleet overloaded at once. "Massive energy spikes, sir. Off the scale," shouted the engineer. "Identify the object," Kale ordered, his voice tight. The AI assistant responded flatly. "Unknown structure approximately 100 kilometers in length. Configuration consistent with a supercarrier." Kale's eyes widened. A human carrier? The bridge went silent. Then, without warning, the structure moved. It wasn't drifting. It was flying, rising from the shadow like a sleeping giant awakening. The moon's surface cracked open as the colossal ship detached completely. It turned slowly, revealing a name burned into its hull in ancient human letters. Eidolon. The moment the word was read, every Imperial translator glitched. The system couldn't classify the term. Then the ship's engines ignited, spreading waves of silent blue fire across space. The light touched the fleet's shields, and half the sensors went offline. Kale clenched his fists. "All ships, defensive formation, open a channel." Static answered him. No response, no voice, no signal. Then, suddenly, a calm human voice echoed through every frequency. "Galactic vessels. You're trespassing on restricted territory. Withdraw immediately." The words were soft, but each syllable carried power. Kale straightened. "Identify yourself," he demanded. The voice paused, then replied, "I am the commander of the Terran defense vessel Eidolon, last of its kind, protector of Earth. The Admiral laughed harshly. "Protector of a dead world, you dare threaten the Empire?" Silence followed. Then came the reply. "You should have left us sleeping." The space between the fleets shimmered. Hundreds of small dark shapes detached from the Eidolon's hull, drones, silent as shadows. They moved faster than light sensors could track. "Target them," Kyle shouted, but by the time the Imperial ships fired, the drones were already among them. One by one, engines shut down, shields collapsed, weapons went dark. The human machines didn't fire a single shot. They simply turned off everything they touched. Panic spread through the fleet. "We're losing control. Systems failing. Communications offline." Kyle stared in disbelief as his dreadnought's massive cannons froze mid-charge. Then a new sound filled the air, a low hum that vibrated through metal and bone. The Eidolon's central core opened, revealing a glowing sphere brighter than a star. The AI's voice echoed again, colder now. "This is your final warning, retreat," Kale refused. "The Empire does not retreat," he growled. He ordered all remaining ships to open fire. Hundreds of energy beams shot across the void, but each one vanished before touching the Eidolon. It was as if space itself bent, swallowing the attacks. And then it happened. A pulse of light expanded from the Eidolon, silent and blue. Every Imperial ship within range froze mid-flight, their power cores neutralized. The armada that once ruled the stars drifted helplessly in orbit. Kale fell to his knees as the lights of his ship went dark. Through the viewing glass, he saw the human supercarrier turn slowly toward Earth. It was not a ship of conquest, it was a guardian returning home. And deep in the darkness of space, the Empire finally realized something terrifying. The humans were not extinct. They were waiting. The Second Imperial Armada, once a symbol of unstoppable power, now floated in silence above Earth, no flames, no noise, only drifting metal and dying lights. Admiral Kale stood inside the dark command deck of his crippled flagship, the Dominion, staring at the massive shape of the Eidolon through the shattered viewport. The human supercarrier was calm, still, almost peaceful, but every officer on board could feel it, the invisible pressure of something ancient watching them. "Status report," Kyle demanded. "Engines offline, weapons frozen, and communication networks corrupted," replied his first officer in a shaking voice. "By whom?" Kale asked. The officer swallowed hard. "By them, sir. By the humans." Kyle turned toward the flickering holographic screen, where strange blue codes danced across every system. The language was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen, but the computer translated fragments of it. Protocol quantum lock active. Weapon control restricted. Intruder. Terminated. Kale felt a chill crawl up his spine. "These are not just machines," he whispered. "They're alive." Outside, the Eidolon's hull began to glow again. Thousands of small blue lights appeared along its surface, like eyes opening. The ship's shadow stretched across the moon, swallowing light, and then the voice returned, calm and cold. "This conflict was unnecessary. You were warned." Kale slammed his fist against the console. "You think we fear ghosts?" he shouted. But deep inside, he did fear them. The humans were supposed to be extinct, burned by their own weapons, wiped out by their arrogance, yet here they were, controlling the most advanced technology in the galaxy. No, Kale realized, beyond the galaxy. Suddenly, one of his engineers gasped. "Sir, the Eidolon is activating something massive." On the main screen, a black field expanded around the carrier, bending the starlight. "What is that?" Kale demanded. The AI translator answered with monotone precision. "Weapon class unknown, quantum fold signature detected." Kale's eyes widened. "Quantum folding? That's impossible. That technology was banned by the core treaties." The officer looked at him helplessly. "Sir, they're not following our treaties. They made their own." A blue wave erupted from the Eidolon, silent and smooth. The nearest Imperial destroyer vanished without an explosion. It didn't break apart or burn. It simply disappeared. "Where did it go?" Kale whispered. "Unknown, Admiral. Sensors show no debris, no trace. It's as if it was erased from reality." Kale's mind raced. If this was quantum folding, the human weapon wasn't destroying ships. It was moving them out of time itself. Then a transmission came through, distorted and faint. "This is the Vigilant. We are falling apart. The walls are bending. The stars are... And then silence, Kale gritted his teeth. Form defensive perimeter around the flagship, he ordered. But no one moved. The officers were pale, terrified, watching as one by one, entire squadrons disappeared into blue light. The Eidolon floated forward slowly, majestic and unstoppable. The hum of its engines rolled across the void like thunder. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was an execution. Suddenly, Kale's console blinked. An incoming message request from the Eidolon. Put it through, he said, voice low. A hologram appeared on the deck, the face of a human. Pale with cold gray eyes, wearing an ancient Terran uniform. I am Admiral Saren of the Terran Defense Command, the figure said. Identify yourself. Kale straightened his posture. I am Admiral Kale of the Imperial Armada, under the rule of His Majesty Emperor Varen. Saren nodded slowly. The Empire still exists then, he said quietly. For now, Kale replied bitterly. You are violating Imperial space. Saren tilted his head. No, Admiral, you are violating our grave. Kyle froze. Saren continued. When your empire came to our world centuries ago, you called us savages, you stole our worlds, and you burned our colonies, we hid, we watched, and we built this ship to make sure it never happens again. Kale clenched his fists. If you think you can defeat the Empire, Saren interrupted calmly. The Empire has already been defeated. You just don't realize it yet. Then the hologram vanished outside. Hundreds of new human ships uncloaked from around the Eidolon. Not large like Imperial dreadnoughts, but sleek, fast, and dark. Each one powered by the same glowing blue core. They moved in perfect silence. Surrounding the broken armada, Kale turned to his officers. Signal the fleet to retreat, he said quietly. Sir, our FTL drives are offline, the officer replied. Voice breaking, Kyle stared at the screen. The Eidolon's front opened, revealing a swirling black vortex inside its core. Is that a wormhole? Someone whispered. No, Kale said softly. It's a weapon. A final pulse of blue light spread across the fleet. The Eidolon fired no missiles, no lasers, no torpedoes. It just whispered through the void, sleep, and the entire Imperial Armada obeyed. Their engines died, their systems went dark, their hearts went silent. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for centuries now drifted like empty shells. Kale looked at his reflection in the shattered glass and spoke his last words. We were never gods. We were children. The Terran carrier turned away slowly, leaving behind only the wreckage of arrogance. Its voice echoed one last time before it disappeared into the shadow of the moon. Humanity does not conquer. Humanity endures. Across the galaxy, panic spread like fire. The fall of the Imperial Armada was not just a defeat, it was a message. A single Terran ship had crushed the most powerful fleet in existence without firing a single conventional weapon. And now every communication network across the Empire carried the same mysterious signal. A silent pulse, repeating again and again. 3 beats, a pause, then one long tone. It was the same rhythm that once echoed from the dark side of Earth. On Serath Prime, the capital of the Galactic Empire, the Emperor stood before the High Council. His golden armor shimmered under the cold light of the war chamber. What is the situation? He demanded. A frightened minister spoke. Sire, entire sectors are losing communication. Planetary defenses have gone offline. It's spreading through the grid. The Emperor slammed his fist onto the table. How can one ship do this? No one had an answer. Then the lights flickered. For a moment, everything turned black when they returned. The Great Hall's main screen activated by itself. A human face appeared, calm, old, and filled with quiet strength. He wore a uniform unlike anything the Empire had ever seen, marked with the faded insignia of United Terran Command. The Emperor leaned forward. Identify yourself. The man spoke slowly, his voice clear and controlled. I am Admiral Saren, commander of the Terran defense vessel Eidolon, survivor of the last war, descendant of those you enslaved. Gasps filled the room. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. This is a transmission trick. Humanity is extinct. Saren shook his head. No, Your Majesty, humanity hid, humanity rebuilt. Humanity remembered. He looked straight into the camera. For centuries you called us relics, you erased our name from the stars. But every insult, every scar became a seed. And from that seed we built a weapon to ensure history never repeats. The Emperor sneered. Do you plan to destroy us? Saren paused, then replied, no. Destruction is easy, understanding is harder. We are not here to conquer. We are here to remind, suddenly, every holoscreen in the Empire switched to the same broadcast. From the lowest mining station to the grandest palace, every citizen saw the same image, the Earth, rising from the shadow of the moon, and behind it, the massive form of the Eidolon, silent and glowing. Then Saren's voice echoed across every frequency in the galaxy. This is a message to all civilizations. We were silent because we chose peace. We hid because we chose survival, but make no mistake, we never disappeared. Across countless worlds, people stopped to listen, some in fear, some in awe. Alien children stared at the sky as their parents whispered the word, humans, as if saying a myth. The Emperor shouted at his generals, "Cut the broadcast." But nothing worked. Every system had been taken over. Even the Imperial Command Network. Then the ships in orbit began to fail, one by one shutting down as human code infected their systems. "Your empire is not under attack," Saren continued. "It is being freed from lies." Images of the Empire's crimes filled the screens. Burning colonies, enslaved species, destroyed planets, each one marked with a date, a place, and the faces of those who suffered. Then the message changed. It showed human children working in alien mines centuries ago. Then flashes of hidden underground cities, humans rebuilding in silence until finally, the image of the Eidolon appeared, rising from the lunar core. The Emperor could feel the eyes of the Council on him. "You let this happen," one senator shouted. "This is your doing," cried another. Guards drew weapons. Chaos spread through the chamber, but above the shouting, the human voice continued calmly. "Empires rise, empires fall, but humanity endures. Because we build in silence and strike in justice." Then suddenly the capital's entire sky darkened. Every citizen looked up as a massive shadow blocked the twin suns. Through the clouds descended the Eidolon, enormous and silent. Its presence filled the atmosphere like a storm about to break. From orbit, it looked like a black continent gliding over the capital city. The Emperor fell back in shock. "They came here?" he whispered. His generals scrambled for control. "Activate planetary defenses." But the command systems no longer obeyed. The Eidolon hovered above the Imperial Palace, casting a shadow over the golden towers. Its blue core pulsed slowly, lighting up the night sky. Then a soft voice spoke through every speaker. "This world once enslaved children of Earth. Now it will witness their return." Panic filled the streets. People ran. Others fell to their knees praying. The Emperor shouted, "Open fire! Destroy that ship!" But no weapon responded, no laser fired. Instead, the palace lights dimmed, and the hologram of Admiral Saren appeared before the Emperor once more. "You don't need to kneel," he said quietly. "But you must listen." Saren walked closer, his projection calm and steady. "The galaxy has forgotten what it means to fear justice. Today it will remember." Then he looked into the Emperor's eyes. "We don't want your throne, your crown, or your empire. We only want truth." And then the hologram vanished. Outside, the Eidolon began to hum, its energy field spreading over the city. Every machine froze, every weapon went cold. Every soldier fell silent. The skies turned bright blue for a moment, and then everything became still. The Empire, which ruled for 1,000 years, was powerless before one human voice. And as the people stared upward, a line appeared on every screen in every world, written in both human and alien languages. "Humanity does not conquer. Humanity warns." The sky above Sarath Prime burned blue and gold. The Eidolon hovered silently above the Imperial Palace, its hull reflecting the dying light of two suns. Beneath it, the greatest city in the galaxy trembled. Once proud towers of crystal and silver now glimmered under the shadow of humanity's return. Inside the throne chamber, the Emperor stood alone. The guards who once surrounded him now lay unconscious. Their weapons melted into the floor. He stared at the massive holographic window where the human supercarrier filled the horizon. Its engines pulsed slowly like a beating heart. He could feel the power vibrating through the air. It wasn't just technology, it was intent. "Admiral Saren," he called out, his voice echoing through the silent hall. "Show yourself." And as if answering his demand, the air shimmered. The hologram of the Terran Admiral appeared once again. Standing just a few steps away, his eyes were calm, his uniform marked with old scars. "Why do you hate us?" the Emperor asked, his voice trembling slightly. Saren shook his head slowly. "We don't hate you, Emperor, we pitied you." The Emperor frowned. "Pity?" Saren nodded. You built your empire on fear and control. But you never learned the strength of loss, the power of patience. Humanity learned both. He turned, looking out toward the glowing sky. When your fleets burned our colonies, we went silent. When your laws erased our name, we hid. When your soldiers laughed at our extinction, we watched. Saren's eyes turned back toward the Emperor. And while you built monuments to your power, we built something far greater, a memory. The Emperor clenched his fists. So this is revenge. Saren's voice softened. No, this is balance. Outside, the Eidolon's energy field spread wider. Touching every ship, every defense platform, every drone in orbit, systems began to shut down across the planet. Then across the entire sector, power grids collapsed, communications fell silent, and the Empire's fleet, the pride of 1,000 worlds, hung motionless like broken toys. All across the galaxy, other hidden Terran fleets awakened. From the dark gas clouds of the Helios Rim, from under the frozen oceans of Vega 9, from secret stations buried inside dead stars, each one powered by the same ancient signal. The same heartbeat that had echoed from Earth. Humanity's network was no myth anymore, it was alive, spreading like a tide through the stars. In the palace, the Emperor fell to his knees. You could have destroyed us in seconds, he said softly. Why haven't you? Saren looked down at him with quiet sadness. Because destruction ends stories, and humanity writes them. Then a gentle hum filled the hall. A small hologram appeared beside Saren, a projection of a little girl holding a flower. Her voice was soft and innocent. Father, are they sorry yet? The Emperor froze. Saren smiled faintly. Almost. My child? The girl nodded and vanished. For a moment, silence returned, heavy and pure. Saren raised his head. The Empire will not die today, he said. It will remember. The Emperor looked confused. Remember what? Remember that mercy is stronger than domination, Saren replied. Remember that the smallest voice can echo louder than 1,000 cannons. Outside, the Eidolon began to ascend slowly. Its blue light expanded, washing over the city like a wave. And wherever the light touched, the damage began to heal. Ruined towers reformed. Broken glass melted back into windows. Even the air grew cleaner. Citizens who had hidden in fear now stepped outside, watching as the human ship drifted upward into the clouds. Across the galaxy, Imperial systems rebooted one by one. But when they did, a new code appeared on every screen. It was a message in both human and Imperial language. Strength without empathy is extinction. Then below it, a smaller line glowed faintly. We are humanity, and we are awake. On the bridge of the Eidolon, Admiral Saren stood beside the glowing core. The ship's AI, Erebus, spoke softly. Mission complete, the network is secure. What are your orders, Admiral? Saren looked out into the vast stars. Set course for the outer rim, he said. There are others who still need to remember. Erebus's voice hummed. Acknowledged. The ship turned slowly, its engines igniting like a sunrise. Meanwhile, on the ground, the Emperor stood on the palace balcony. For the first time in his life, he felt small. He watched as the Eidolon disappeared into the heavens, leaving trails of blue light that shimmered like falling stars. A single tear ran down his face. They could have destroyed us, he whispered, but they saved us instead. In that moment, every citizen of the Empire understood the truth. The legends about humans were not stories of monsters or conquerors. They were stories of survivors, of builders, of watchers, a species that had fallen into silence, not from weakness, but from restraint. Days later, across thousands of worlds, people began rebuilding under a new banner. The Imperial sigil was gone, replaced by a simple emblem, a circle of stars around a small blue sphere. At its center, one word was written, Earth. Far beyond the galaxy, inside the Eidolon, Saren stood at the viewport watching the stars drift by. He whispered quietly to himself, Humanity doesn't conquer. Humanity survives. The ship glided into hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy reborn, and for the first time in 10,000 years, peace did not come from fear, it came from understanding. And the stars for once were silent.